Ladies and gentlemen, you wake up one day and realize the opportunities you ignored, the promises you broke, the strength you never built were all chapters you left unwritten, and now the pages are closing fast. It's a terrifying revelation, like standing on the shore watching your ship disappear over the horizon while you're still holding the map, and here's the punchline. You thought you had time. Most men never see the trap until they're neck deep in it, buried under distraction, comfort, and the illusion of someday. The first act is always subtle, a quiet resistance to discipline, a soft shrug at responsibility, maybe even a proud little chuckle, "I'll get to it later." Then comes the second act, the storm life demands payment, and you're not ready. Relationships crumble, purpose fades, and suddenly you're the guy giving advice you never lived. But Act 3, that's where the story either ends in silent regret or explodes into a comeback so fierce it burns the old self to ashes. And here's the question that will haunt or ignite you. What if the man you were meant to become is still waiting, but only for a little while longer? Time doesn't warn, it vanishes. It doesn't knock, it doesn't whisper, it doesn't negotiate. It simply moves, silently, indifferently. Whether you're prepared or not, whether you're paying attention or wasting it, time is not the enemy that attacks, it's the friend you ignore until he's already gone. When you're young, you think you own it. You think you can bend it, delay it, bargain with it. You put things off because the clock seems full, the days feel endless, and the weight of tomorrow hasn't landed yet. But the truth is, time never told you it would wait. It just let you believe that lie. People rarely realize the cost of delay while they're in the middle of it. You scroll, you rest, you joke, you pause, and in those tiny, harmless moments, time leaves quietly. It doesn't shout, it doesn't crash, it just slips away while your attention is somewhere else. You feel like you have control, but control over what? You can't stop it. You can't stretch it. You can't rewind it. What you can do is lose it, and most do, without ever knowing they did. The danger isn't in the major events you missed. It's in the thousands of little things you didn't do, conversations you postponed, habits you avoided, talents you never developed. Those things compound like interest, but time never sends a balance sheet. And when you do realize it, when the illusion finally breaks, it doesn't come gently. It comes like a crash, like looking around in a house you lived in for years and seeing everything dusty, cracked, and broken. You see the dreams still on the shelf untouched, the books unread, the skills you never picked up, the people who needed you, but you were too busy doing nothing of value. The version of you that could have existed if you started earlier, no longer possible, not in the same way. That's what makes time cruel. It doesn't offer do-overs. It offers choices, and when those choices expire, so do your chances. Men often realize this too late, not because they're lazy, but because they're distracted. Distracted by comfort, by ease, by a culture that tells you, you have time, take it slow. But time doesn't slow down just because you're not ready. It doesn't care if your childhood was hard, if your job is draining, if your motivation is low. It still ticks. Seconds still pass. The world keeps moving. You don't get extra time just because you suffered. And that's where many fall into the trap, thinking tomorrow will be more forgiving than today. Thinking motivation will appear out of nowhere. It won't. You think someday you'll feel like starting. But someday isn't a day on the calendar. It's a fantasy. Think about the habits you wanted to build, the body you wanted to transform, the business you thought of starting, the apology you never made, the father you wanted to become. Every single one of those intentions had a timer on them, but no one told you. And you assumed you could get to them when life felt more aligned. But the truth is, life never aligns for you. You align for life. You adjust, you act, or you surrender. Those are the only options. But when you surrender without knowing you're surrendering, it's not just passive, it's deadly. It kills your potential in real time. You've heard people say time flies, but it doesn't just fly, it erases. It erases the excuses, the comfort, and the temporary pleasures, leaving you only with results. And the harsh part is, those results don't reflect your intentions, they reflect your actions. Time respects movement, not promises. You can mean well, dream big, plan smart, but if you don't execute, time doesn't care. The clock doesn't stop for potential. It rewards the ones who act, who dare, who refuse to delay just because things aren't perfect. There's a silent fear that creeps in when you realize too much time has passed. You feel behind, you feel regret, you feel shame, and instead of using that pain as fuel, most use it as proof that it's already too late to change, so they stop trying. But the irony is now is still earlier than next year, and the only thing more painful than wasting time is wasting the realization that you wasted it. Because that moment when the fog clears, when your vision sharpens, when the truth hits, it's a rare moment, a gift, a second chance disguised as despair, and most people throw it away. They don't want to feel it. It's too uncomfortable, so they go back to the same distractions, hoping the feeling fades. But the feeling is the gift. That discomfort is the signal, the alarm clock, the final warning, because time won't tell you it's done. It will just be done. One day you'll wake up and you won't have later anymore. You'll have what you did, what you didn't, what you chose, what you ignored. That's it. No negotiation, no reset, just the mirror, just the consequences, just the truth. Comfort is the silent killer of potential. It doesn't strike like a storm. It seeps in like warm water, making you believe you're safe, secure, and doing just fine. It convinces you that you've earned the right to rest, even if you haven't yet built anything worth protecting. It whispers, take a break, you deserve it, even when the work isn't done. Comfort isn't loud, and that's exactly why it's dangerous. It doesn't push you down, it gently keeps you still. And while you're still, the world moves. The people who fight discomfort rise, and you stay planted, not because you can't move, but because you don't feel the urgency to. It's a trap so well designed you don't even know you've entered it. You stop chasing more because what you have feels enough for now. You stop asking questions, stop challenging yourself, stop taking risks, because why bother when your current life isn't painful? But the absence of pain is not the presence of growth. In fact, most growth begins right where comfort ends. Muscles grow under tension, skills sharpen under pressure, character forms under trial. But if you avoid the tension, the pressure, the trial, you also avoid the transformation, and you don't even notice it because everything around you seems okay. Comfort often disguises itself as peace. It feels like stability, but it's stagnation. It looks like happiness, but it's sedation. And the worst part is, people applaud it. They say you've made it because you're not struggling anymore. They cheer for your balance, your steady life, your no drama zone. But deep down, you know something is off. You know the fire you once had has dimmed. You know the hunger to create, to chase, to conquer, to become more has been replaced with routines, screens, and excuses. You stopped pushing not because you couldn't push, but because comfort made you forget why you started pushing in the first place. Potential is a powerful thing, but it's also fragile. It doesn't scream when you ignore it. It doesn't beg you to be used. It just waits until it can't wait anymore. And when it's gone, it's not loud either. It just vanishes, taking with it the version of you that could have existed. Comfort is the perfect environment for this kind of death, the slow, invisible kind. The death of dreams, of strength, of calling, of grit. It tells you, you're doing fine, while every gift inside you starts to rot from neglect. And when the moment finally comes where you need to be strong, focused, capable, relentless, you find you're empty. Because you never trained for the storm, you were too comfortable in the calm. You can look around at the people stuck in the same place year after year and see the signs. They don't seem miserable. They're not falling apart. But they're not alive either. They don't speak with conviction. They don't act with urgency. They just coast, hoping life doesn't demand too much from them. But life will. Sooner or later it will. And the ones who avoided discomfort will pay the highest price, not just in outcomes, but in identity. They'll forget what it felt like to strive, to struggle, to win, to fail and rise again. Because they haven't tested themselves in so long, they don't even know if they can. True potential is revealed through resistance, through challenge, through hard choices, and comfort wants none of that. Comfort wants easy, it wants predictable, it wants repeatable, it wants to keep you soft enough not to try and numb enough not to care. It's the quiet voice that tells you tomorrow is a better time to start, that you'll feel more motivated later, that you deserve rest before you've earned progress. And once you believe it, it doesn't need to do anything else. You're already disarmed. You'll never chase greatness while holding hands with comfort. You were not built to coast. You were built to conquer, to evolve, to stretch beyond your current state. But comfort makes the present feel permanent. It convinces you that how things are is how they'll always be, and that's a lie. The moment you stop growing, you start decaying. There is no standing still in life. You're either climbing or slipping, either pursuing or postponing. And the scary part is, the longer you stay comfortable, the harder it is to leave. Your mind adapts, your standards lower, your hunger fades, and slowly the discomfort of ambition begins to feel like a threat instead of a calling. You don't lose potential in a single moment. You lose it in small, comfortable decisions repeated daily. You choose the couch over the challenge, the distraction over the discipline, the familiar over the frightening. And every time you do, you train yourself to settle, to shrink, to forget the fire. That's how comfort kills, not by force, but by invitation. It offers you an easy path, and you accept, not knowing it leads nowhere. You just keep walking in circles, convincing yourself that you're making progress because it's not painful. But growth hurts, change hurts, and comfort doesn't want you to feel either. Regret is heavier than discipline. Discipline demands effort now, early mornings, uncomfortable choices, missed parties, sweat, sacrifice, silence, but regret demands everything later. It demands your peace of mind, your sleep, your pride, your confidence. Discipline is the weight you carry with purpose, with vision, with intention. It has structure. It builds muscle, mental, emotional, physical. It stretches your limits while reminding you of your potential. Regret, on the other hand, is formless. It sinks into your chest and sits there without asking. You can't reason with it, you can't undo it, and worst of all, it comes after the opportunity has passed. People avoid discipline because it's inconvenient. It interrupts comfort. It requires saying no when it would feel better to say yes. It asks for consistency even when motivation is gone. It asks for vision when the outcome is uncertain. But what they don't see is that in trying to escape this short-term discomfort, they are building a long-term prison. They are setting themselves up to feel the weight of what they could have been, and that weight doesn't fade. It lingers. It visits you in the quiet. It shows up in the mirror. It stares at you when you're alone, not judging, just reminding. It says, "You knew better. You could have tried harder. You had the time." Discipline is often misunderstood as punishment. But it's not. It's self-respect in action. It's honoring your future self enough to pay the price today. It's choosing the harder path now so you don't live in pieces later. The people you admire, the ones who seem to have it together, who seem fulfilled, who stand with power and speak with clarity, they are not lucky. They are disciplined. They've made sacrifices you haven't seen. They've done things they didn't feel like doing for days, months, years because they feared regret more than they hated effort. They understood that nothing worthwhile is ever handed out freely. Everything has a price, and you either pay it up front with discipline or you pay it later with regret, and regret always charges interest. Regret is the realization that the door is closed, that the chance is gone, that no matter how much you wish, you cannot rewind the clock. You can't redo the missed opportunities. You can't get the time back. And the older you get, the heavier that truth becomes. You start to see people younger than you doing things you dreamed of. You start to hear your own excuses in other people's mouths and realize how small they sound. You see the space between where you are and where you could have been, and that space becomes a wound. You can cover it up with distraction, but you can't heal it without facing it. And regret doesn't shrink. It grows louder in silence. It becomes the voice inside you asking, what if, what now, what have I done? Discipline gives you freedom on the other side. It gives you pride, confidence, momentum. It turns into habits, and those habits build a version of you that walks into rooms with certainty, that speaks without shrinking, that lives without apology. Not because life is easy, but because you know you've earned your place. You didn't take the shortcuts. You didn't fold when it got hard. You didn't betray your future for a little comfort today. You showed up. Over and over, even when no one clapped, even when nothing seemed to change, because you knew the change was happening inside. And that internal shift is what separates the fulfilled from the frustrated. People always want to feel motivated before they start, but motivation is like a spark, it's not meant to last. Discipline is the fuel that keeps the fire burning long after the spark is gone. It's boring, it's repetitive, it's uncomfortable, but it's powerful. It shapes your character, it creates a foundation under your goals. Without it, everything collapses when life pushes back, and life will push back. Discipline prepares you for that. Regret, however, doesn't prepare you, it paralyzes you. It makes you hesitant, bitter, angry. It whispers that it's too late, even when it's not. It steals your energy and replaces it with nostalgia, wishing things were different instead of making them different. The people who regret most aren't the ones who failed. They're the ones who never tried, who talked themselves out of chasing something because it was too hard, too risky, too uncertain. But discipline isn't about guaranteeing success. It's about becoming someone who refuses to settle. Someone who lives in alignment with their values, not just their feelings. Someone who wakes up knowing they're not perfect, but they're improving. And that knowledge is powerful. It gives peace, not the fragile peace of avoidance, but the deep, unshakable peace of self-trust. Of knowing that when the moment mattered, you stood tall. You chose the pain of progress instead of the pain of regret. A delayed purpose becomes a denied destiny. Purpose isn't just an idea. It's an internal compass pulling you toward who you are meant to become. It's the force that gives your actions meaning, your days direction, your struggles significance. When you delay it out of fear, doubt, distraction, or the illusion of more time, you're not just postponing something optional. You're interrupting a path that was meant for you alone. Destiny doesn't wait around while you sort out your motivation. It doesn't stand still while you entertain comfort. It moves forward, and if you're not moving with it, you're falling behind in ways that may not show up today, but will hit like a storm when it's too late to course correct. Purpose speaks in whispers. It doesn't scream. It nudges you when you're doing something that doesn't align with your core. It stirs discomfort in places where you've settled for less. It flashes ideas in your mind when you're quiet enough to hear them. But when you ignore those whispers long enough, they fade. Not because they weren't true, but because you trained yourself not to listen. Every time you choose delay, you reinforce that it's okay to keep waiting. You get used to not acting. You get good at hesitation. And eventually, you forget what that inner pull even felt like. That's how dreams die, not with rejection, but with silence. Destiny isn't fate. It's not automatic. It's not guaranteed just because you have talent or good intentions. It's the reward for walking through fear, doubt, and difficulty with faith in what you're meant to build. When you delay your purpose, you start to rewrite the story that could have been written through you. The impact you were supposed to make gets rerouted. The people you were meant to help don't hear your voice. The legacy you were supposed to create gets smaller until it disappears entirely, and no one tells you this while you're waiting. Because the world is full of people who will tell you to take your time. But time is not loyal to those who waste it. You might think delaying purpose is harmless, that you'll get to it when life calms down, when money's better, when confidence finally arrives. But purpose isn't a convenience, it's a calling. And the longer you avoid the call, the weaker your response becomes. The discomfort of living without it grows slowly, like a dull ache that you learn to live with. But deep down, there's a quiet panic. You know something is missing. You can feel it in your conversations, in your distractions, in the way you envy people who seem to be living fully. You don't want their life, you want their alignment, their clarity, their courage to walk in what they were made for. The cost of delay doesn't just show up in your goals, it shows up in your identity. You begin to feel like a version of yourself that's always almost brave, almost committed, almost ready. That almost eats away at your confidence. It makes you settle. It convinces you that maybe you're not meant for more after all. But that's not truth, that's the result of too many delayed decisions. You weren't born to blend in. You weren't built to play it safe. You were designed to lead something, build something, change something. But delay steals that destiny and replaces it with excuses dressed up as logic. I'm not ready, maybe next year, it's too risky, and every excuse feels reasonable in the moment. But the sum of them becomes a life unlived. Purpose requires movement. It demands action even when the road is unclear. Destiny isn't waiting for the perfect plan, it's activated by imperfect progress. You don't discover who you are by thinking about it. You find it in motion, in failure, in trying, in showing up again and again. But when you delay long enough, motion stops feeling natural. Stagnation becomes the default. You begin to fear the very thing you were created for. Not because it's not right for you, but because you haven't practiced stepping into it. Delay turns purpose into pressure and pressure into avoidance. You never know the full ripple effect of your purpose. It's not just about you. It's about the people watching you, learning from you, waiting for what only you can give. A delayed purpose means they wait too, or worse, they never receive what they were meant to. Your courage creates space for others to rise. Your discipline inspires someone else's belief. Your obedience to your calling unlocks something generational. But if you delay, all of that stays locked. The chain reaction never begins. And while you're waiting for a better moment, life is moving forward without your voice in it. The world doesn't need more potential, it needs purpose in action. It needs people who show up not just when it's easy, but when it matters, and it matters now. Every day you wait is a day your destiny drifts further away. Not because it's lost, but because you're standing still while it moves forward.